Welcome to our parent information session on the topic of grammar, developed and presented by the speech pathology team at Peel Language Development School. My name is Kristen Aird. I'm one of the speech pathologists, and I will be sharing this information with you all today. This video is designed for Peel Language Development School parents and carers. You should have all received a copy of your child's individual language plan, which outlines their individual goals in each of the areas of oral language. This is one of a series of videos that will be uploaded over the coming weeks to support the areas of oral language that are included in your child's ILP. Today, this video will provide information on the oral language area of grammar, and we will discuss ideas of how you can support your child's grammar goals within the home environment. This is an example of the grammar page from the individual language plan. If you turn to this page of your child's ILP, you will be able to see their current goals in the area of grammar. The goals that are highlighted in yellow are the current active goals that your child is working on. So the active goals may have NG under them, meaning that this is a new goal that has been set for your child. Active goals may also have a D for developing, which means that your child still requires some assistance to complete these tasks. Or they may have an E for emerging, meaning that your child still requires significant teacher support to complete the task. If there is a goal that has a C and has been highlighted in grey, this means that your child has consolidated that particular goal and has now moved on to a new goal. When we talk about grammar, we're referring to learning about how all the different parts of a sentence work together and also how we can link sentences together. So learning to use correct grammar allows us to have our messages clearly understood, which can lead to less frustration, and it makes the whole communication process much more enjoyable. Also, as children get older, grammar becomes increasingly important as they learn to also communicate in the written form. It's highly likely that your child will have one or more pronoun goals on their ILP. So younger students may have pronouns that they're working on, such as I and me, as sometimes children will have difficulty knowing which pronoun to use when referring to themselves. So they may say things like me go shops instead of I went to the shops. Other common pronoun goals for our students are he and she, and his and her. They'll often learn one and then use that to refer to everyone. So often he becomes a favourite and they will use that over and over. Another common goal that may be set for your child is about learning to include what we call auxiliaries or helper verbs in our sentences. So these are the little words like am, is and are, or have, has and had. You can see a couple of examples up on the slide there. Often students with language difficulties would leave out these little words or not use them consistently in their sentences. It's also likely that your child will have a goal related to tense. So for the younger students, they'll often start learning to add the ing to the end of their verbs to tell us that something is happening in the present tense. So running, jumping, singing. Then they'll move on to adding ed for past tense, so jumped, climbed. You may also see a goal for future tense, so talking about things that haven't happened yet, which requires us to use words like will be and going to. So it will be my birthday in 2 sleeps. Older students may also have goals such as irregular past tense verbs. So this is a bit trickier. And that's about learning the past tense forms of specific verbs. So for example, run becomes ran, break becomes broke. Some children will also have a goal set for plurals. So earlier on, learning about regular plurals where we can just add the S to the end of the word for more than one, so one cat, two cats. And then later on with our older students, learning those irregular forms again, so one mouse, two mice. And another important aspect of grammar is learning how to link our sentences together. So your child may have been set a joining words goal to assist with this. So often we start with and then, and that's really helpful for describing a series of events. And then our older students will move on to more complex joining words like because and so, if, until, those sorts of words. So remember that the ultimate goal is grammatically correct sentences, but it can take a while for our kids to get there, and that's okay. Being able to produce grammatically correct sentences combines all of those other goals that we have just talked about. So now we'll talk about some simple things that you can do at home with your child to help work on their grammatical skills. So one of the best things that you can do at home is to engage in conversation with your child throughout the day, in play and in everyday tasks. And whilst you're doing that, build in some recasting and expansion of their sentences. This is something that I'm sure lots of you will do naturally anyway without even thinking about it. So with recasting, you can use this when your child makes an error. The idea is that you model the correct grammar back to them in a natural way while trying to keep the flow of the conversation going. So for example, if your child says, "Him come back his home," you could say something like, "He went back to his home. What happened when he went home?" And then the conversation can continue. So it's important to try and not repeat the error back to your child, as that reinforces the error, where what we really want them to hear is the correct model instead. And also try not to put too much pressure on them to say the sentence again. They may do this naturally anyway, and that's great, but we just try not to force it, as this can really interrupt the natural flow of the conversation. With extending or expanding sentences, you can do this through play, everyday conversations, or book shares. So you could have your child retell some parts of a story using the pictures, and you can use this opportunity to build on their sentences. So they might say something like, "The boy got down," and you could say, "Oh yes, the boy got down from the high branch. What happened next?" And by expanding on their sentences, you are helping them to learn how to use more descriptive language as well as more complex sentences. Reading storybooks with your child helps to model correct grammar. These can be simple picture books for younger children, or even more complex or chapter books for older children. During play with your child, you could help them with their tense goals by talking about what is happening now. What is the baby doing? Oh, the baby's sleeping. Or what has just happened? So what did Teddy just do? Oh, he jumped on the bed. Or talk about the future. What will the dog do next? You could also set up an obstacle course in the backyard and have a bit of a running commentary where they're saying things like, "I am running," and "now I am climbing." For specific pronouns like I, you can play games like Mr. Potato Head, where the child has to request pieces from you. So, "I need a nose." Or you could have your child request things at snack time or when choosing a TV show. "I like Bluey, what do you like?" For the pronouns he and she, you can explain that he is a boy and she is a girl, and then you can find some pictures of boys and girls and talk about what they're doing. If your older child is practicing some writing, then something quite helpful you can do is work with them to edit their work and encourage them to be making those self-corrections. So hopefully this just gives you a few simple ideas of things that you can do at home to support your child's grammatical development. Here is a small collection of apps that are available for download specific for grammar. Just remember that when using apps, it's best if you can sit with your child and then you're there to support them when needed. Thanks for tuning in today and watching our grammar information video. As always, if you have any questions, please make contact with your child's classroom teacher or a member of the speech pathology team at Peel Language Development School.